My first consciously registered encounter with a health inequity was when I was 6 years old. My mother developed an infection with only a vaccine, but no cure. If I have to pick something to share with you about my mother, it would be that service was engraved in her heart and that she served the community that she lived in. My mother worked for a nonprofit organization, and she spent her entire life listening to stories, empathizing, and sharing what she had. I still have some of the gifts that she received from the community that she was working for. When I turned 5, she started developing complications from the infection, hepatitis, and spent most of her days looking for a better treatment in both modern and traditional medicine to no avail. My mother, the only family I had left, passed away after a year of struggle. Following the death of my mother, everything changed. But one thing remained the same: the school she signed me up for. Between the lack of primary caregiver and not feeling like I belonged anywhere, school became the one place I practiced whoever I could be. In a way, school gave me a pen to rewrite my story. And I grabbed that pen and have been rewriting ever since. And that's why I'm a firm believer in the notion that an education received should be given back to the community. But because honestly, if it wasn't the education, the exposure, or the people that believed in me, odds are I wouldn't be here. That's why I want to extend the same opportunity to others that was given to me, to rewrite their stories and to defy the odds. Fast forward to my high school years. Between joining the charity club, the vision club, the basketball team, I've always wanted to be an aerospace engineer until a random day. I was preparing to take the national exam in grade 10. And the first day of the exam, I got up to an empty house. By the time, I was living with my aunt, and it was just me and her. So I assumed she went out to get something from the shop. But then I noticed that all of her belongings are gone. I did not understand what was happening, but I had a feeling. Me being me, I finished up getting ready and went to school. Because school meant that everything was fine, everything is the same. I finished my exams that day, went back home, and waited and waited. My other aunt came to the rescue and told me that my aunt is not coming back, that she wanted her own life. Moments like this kept me thinking about the one thing that changed everything. My mother's death that could have been prevented was just a vaccine. From then on, it did not make sense to be an aerospace engineer. I wanted to prevent death and pain. And I also wanted to change my pain into a purpose, to use my understanding of the pain to serve others. So I chose to join clinical medicine, to bring not only my brain, but my heart and my soul to the practice. My own story gave me an extra eye to see who is being cornered by the system, and also learned that health doesn't always sound as health. People in the hospital came in late because they couldn't access transportation. The lack of infrastructure delaying treatment. We had an entire pediatric ward dedicated to malnutrition because families couldn't afford to feed their children. And some didn't know what accounts as nutritious. The lack of information costing lives. Women and girls came with complications of using unfit sanitary products and still missed 1/3 of school in Ethiopia. Women with disability came in with chronic, unaddressed, and preventable complications. I learned that my story and the story of my mother is the story of millions in Ethiopia. Death that is optional had it been more resources, more awareness, and a better healthcare. Because the hospital that I was doing my clinical attachment is located in front of Addis Ababa University, one of the universities known to accept blind students into some of the courses. And the Ethiopian National Association for the Blind was also located at the back. Blind patients frequented this hospital than the others. Out of curiosity, I visited these two places. There I learned Braille is imported, therefore expensive. And a Braille material costs 10 times than the counterpart. If a book costs 50 bucks, it becomes 500 when it's converted to Braille without any profit. I also went to the nearby high school and saw that Braille textbooks to students ratio was 1:5. From the medical side, the entire hospital was inaccessible for both information and service. Awareness creation materials are prepared with no consideration for sensory or other disabilities. I immediately started volunteering for the blind students at the university, but I wanted to do more. I've always believed that there's a resource somewhere and a need elsewhere, and the least I can be is a bridge between the resources and the people that need it. This realization led to the start of the nonprofit organization Zuzu for Health and Education, named after the initials of the two most influential women in my life, my late mother, Zurash Warq, and my aunt who showed up that day and every other day ever since, Zufan, to work on making health and education materials accessible to people with sensory disability, with the pilot project focusing on the blind and visually impaired. In the first phase, we converted all high school textbooks into audio formats and reached 20,000 members of the association. We hoped this will increase their chances of joining higher education and assume better socioeconomic status, and which should later will lead to access better health care. Moreover, I hope it will create a sense of belongingness for blind students in the schools. In the second phase, we engaged in producing health contents on reproductive and mental health and its intersection with disability. From preparing audio recordings to in-person sessions, to organizing sanitary pad donations, to advocacy in the media, all in an attempt to create an environment that is open to address the unique challenge faced by women with disability. Looking back in the 1 year, I see progress, but I also see that there's a lot more to do. But I'm enclosed in gratitude for the community that I found in the Atlantic Fellows, and all for the lessons that I learned and the journey that we shared. If I have to leave you with one thing, the world is home to everyone, men, women, poor, rich, people with disability, or without it, the list goes on. When designing systems, it's only natural that it resembles the world we live in. Inclusion should be the default, not the exception. And my ask to you all is that you enable the communities to rewrite their wrongs the way my community allowed to do mine. My name is Dr. Melikte, and this is my story.